Hello everybody. So if you've been following my videos, you'll know that one of the subjects I'm really passionate about as a librarian and as a reader is the idea that our libraries need to offer diverse books. Books that speak to a wide range of identities, because our society is made up of a very broad range of identities. But with this dedication, I'm continually worried by ever-increasing incidents of book challenges that are paired with really inflammatory, hateful rhetoric. Librarians and authors are being portrayed as groomers of young people. And this ongoing concern prompted me to read a book called Band Together, Our Fight for Readers' Rights. This is an anthology that addresses book challenges and censorship through the perspectives of various authors and illustrators. And they contribute works in a variety of formats, including fiction, memoir, poetry, graphic narratives, and essays. But what these contributors all have in common is that a work that they created has been the subject of book challenges. And so while reading Band Together, there was one essay in particular that especially struck me. The essay is called Groomer. It was written by Bill Konigsberg. And, well, here, I will read you a quote from it. "This is an essay about what it feels like to be a survivor of grooming. It is an essay about what it feels like as an adult to make the active choice to be a helper for young people, always. It is an essay about what it means to be determined to protect others from that experience, and then to have people call me a groomer and a pedophile for having written books that portray young LGBTQ+ characters." So as a young person, Konigsberg didn't have access to stories from the perspective of LGBTQIA+ characters, let alone stories that might have helped him recognize an adult's predatory behavior. Such a book might have equipped the young reader to avoid being exploited. And as an author now, Konigsberg tells stories to make a difference in preventing what happened to him from happening to other young people. And reading his account, I just felt so much empathy for him because, like Konigsberg, I am a survivor of grooming. Or at least in my case, I survived what might have been an early level attempt at grooming. So this was shortly out of high school, and I was one of several young people who were part of this crew. They called us a crew, who wrote and produced radio spots for a local priest, Father Don Kimball's youth radio ministry. And so one day in the studio, Father Don came up behind me and he started wrenching my shoulders. He didn't ask if he could give me a massage. He just grabbed me and started wrenching. Now, I'd been dealing with chronic pain for years at the time, and this chronic pain could flare up anywhere between, up by my neck, all down my shoulder, elbow, all the way to my fingertips. You know, somebody could jostle me and there would be a flare-up of pain. So imagine what happens when this guy, Father Don, just starts wrenching, just, so roughly. Well, this massage was just so painful, I couldn't help myself. I just cried out in pain. And then Father Don immediately just got so angry. He was practically yelling that if I got massages regularly, it wouldn't hurt. And this blow up of his it was terrifying. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. And it made absolutely no sense. It seemed completely out of proportion. Because after all, he'd been the one who grabbed me without asking permission, without getting consent. But now here, this angry outburst of his suggested that I'd done something wrong. I didn't even know how to respond to his outburst, but thankfully that was the end of it. Father Don never touched me again. And so several years later, after I left the crew, accusations began surfacing about Father Don sexually molesting young people. And the news reports stated that part of his grooming of them had been giving his victims massages. And so as the accusations came to light and Father Don's child molestation trial unfolded, as much as I didn't want to believe that someone I'd known and had worked with could be capable of such a thing, I had only to look back at my own experience with him that day in the recording studio and see how it aligned with his reported methodology. So Father Don was ultimately defrocked, and he had to give up his youth ministry after admitting to having sexual contact with 6 young girls. And so now, having survived that experience, having had to deal with it, now, like Konigsberg, I'm confronted by people applying the slur of groomer toward authors and librarians who seek to offer mirrors for the experience of LGBTQIA+ young people. It's an obscene and deliberate mischaracterization. It's an assault on our integrity, our professional dignity, and our character. At the same time, the stakes are just so high. We need LGBTQIA+ perspectives in literature. I share the viewpoint expressed by Christina Dorr and Liz Deskins. They're the authors of LGBTQAI+ books for children and teens. And in it, they say making these stories available isn't about exposing children to details of sexual practices. Rather, it's about understanding, empathy, acceptance, and respecting basic human rights. And it isn't about indoctrinating kids, somehow suddenly making them gay or making them trans or whatever queer identity is currently being scapegoated. You know, there was a post on social media going around maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it said, gay kids read thousands of books about straight characters, and yet they still grow up gay. So just the very idea that a book could turn you a certain way, it's ludicrous. It doesn't turn you a certain way. It just gives you the vocabulary to explain an aspect of yourself, something that was already there, but maybe you didn't have the words to express it. That didn't make it any less real. It just inhibited your ability to explain it. So Band Together, it was published in March 2025 by Holiday House. I read this book to experience other voices raised in solidarity, because this current trend in our society just feels so relentless. While at the same time, the work we are doing is so vital and necessary. Authors and librarians are not groomers of young people, and it is absolutely vile and obscene that we are being characterized this way.